make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
It's showtime.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Okay, so that's a little better. It's still the microphone, but at least it's a bit more neutral. Anyway, the misunderstanding is that when the people who are trying to fight this culture war say negative things about Disney, it's done out of avarice. It's done because we want to see Disney fail. And WDW Pro, I watch them every once in a while. It stands for Walt Disney World Pro. Um, you know, he says all the time that they don't hate Disney, they just want Disney to go back to the middle, to go back to entertainment, to go back to the sensible center, where everybody can be entertained by Disney, Disney's output. Um, but the problem is that we're going to go into that. Oh no, not again. Yeah. I've had some problems. I had a few problems. I think it's stable for now. Um, thanks for coming, Will. All right. So the issue that a lot of people think is that we want to see Disney go. We want to see Disney die. That's not the case at all. Especially those of us that are Gen X, who basically got raised by Disney. But we got raised by Disney. Uncle Walt showed up to add on a television, on ABC, about Sunday night, around 7 o'clock, I think. Wild, it's not the Wild World of Disney. It's the Wonderful World of Disney. That show went on. It was on for a long time, and that show was basically it would show movies from the Disney catalog. It would show cartoons. It would show specials, and some of them educational. But at its heart was it was basically children were at the heart of everything Disney did, and they basically were unapologetically pro kid, and and parents trusted Disney, trusted Disney. My parents, who were very strict. Hola, hola, what's up, Wrangler? Good to see you, man. But my parents were very pro Disney. Okay, my parents were very strict. They were very religious, uh, not only religious, but evangelical religious. And I mean, they weren't like Bible thumpers, but the Bible was there. And so my parents were very picky about what they put us in front of, and they would just stick us in front of Disney and walk away. They would do the same with Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and people like that. Of course, in hindsight, that might not have been a good thing. When you go back and watch that stuff and see all the communist propaganda that was shoved into PBS stuff. But Disney was relatively safe, mainly because Mr. Walt Disney was broke up some unions back in the day to protect his in-house animators who they were trying to force into the union servitude. And because of that, he got labeled anti-Semite, which is the label they still slap him with today. It's amazing how not wanting your animators to be forced into paying dues to a organization that doesn't have their best interest at heart makes you a anti-Semite. How does that add up? Only in California, right? Um, anyway, hold on. It's really muffled. Oh man. Seriously, it's been muffled? Oh, dang it, man. I thought I was doing good. Well, I've got my Yeti right here, my default. Let me check the settings because I was having a problem last time. Hold on a second. The reason why I had to redo the show. Am I have to redo the show again? Ah, are you kidding me?
Um, okay, evidently my Yeti went bye-bye again. I didn't realize it. A lot of white noise can't be helped. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go. Let me try reduce mic background. Echo cancellation's on. Reduce mic noise is on. I've got to use my camera mic. Evidently, my Yeti's going bye-bye again. Okay, all right. I wish you were here at the beginning, man. I mean, I'd like to have feedback at the beginning of my shows, so I don't have like lost time because I've been waxing poetic, and I guess nobody's heard it. Anyway, all right. But when we talk about, when we talk about Disney, we talk about like a favorite uncle. We talk about uh, like a beloved babysitter. We talk about it like it's a member of the family because all during the 70s and the 80s when I was growing up, Disney was part of the family. Uncle Walt showed up Sunday nights at 7 o'clock. Parents would sit you down in front of the television, and he'd walk away because they knew that Uncle Walt was going to watch after. They knew Uncle Walt was not going to give them anything that the parents would have to ask, answer questions about later. Like, Snoop Dogg was talking about his grandson asking him why these two women could have kids. And he's like, I wasn't ready for that conversation. Well, you shouldn't have been ready for that conversation. And if your Uncle Walt was still in charge, you wouldn't have. Okay. But when we talk about Disney, the way with Disney was, I mean, people don't understand. Disney was Americana. Disney was pure. Disney was just entertainment. It was safe. It was non-political. It was non-religious. I mean, it had some religious undertones because there's quite frankly a lot of the positive lessons to be taken from religious, you know, tomes, the Bible, things like that, and that was part. Yeah, keyword was. Well, I've got to give context. Okay, I'm trying. I'm trying to talk about how where they were. Okay, there's a lot of people now that don't remember that. If you were millennial or if you're like in later, you probably don't remember a time where Disney was 100% safe, where Disney was innocuous, where Disney was basically, light entertainment. And if you sat in front of a Disney movie, you were you basically could turn your brain off and just go with it. It was pure entertainment. I mean, movies such as the Cat from Outer Space, a Astronaut in King Arthur's Court, crazy, wacky things like that. The Boogity movies, Mr. Boogity. Um, that was a little later on. But you could watch these movies and you could feel like you were safe. Yeah, well, Walt turned it over to a young man named Michael Eisner at some point. Why isn't the comment coming up so much today? Let's try this again. Sorry, everybody. Try this again. My comments aren't coming up. All right, let me turn this thing on where they show up on the page itself. There it is. Okay. All right, there we go. Anyway, but Walt believed in Americana. He believed in America, and he believed that the fabric of America was basically in the Judeo-Christian ethic, and so everything basically had that at its heart. Now, there were some things about Walt that weren't so lovable. Okay, Walt was a little bit megalomaniacal. He definitely took credit for things that other people did. That's pretty much well known. This is not like spilling tea or anything. Ask Carl Barks why nobody knew he drew those incredible Duck comics that changed pop culture and influenced the generations of creators, including George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and people like that. All that, main reason why Carl Barks was unknown was because they wanted to put Walt Disney's name on everything. And so people associated the product with Walt Disney. And that's not one of the better things about it. However, while Walt was there, Walt Disney World was pure Americana. It was pure entertainment. It was child based, and it was they were basically doing the work of maintaining the fabric of America. Okay, and then Michael Eisner came in. Walt, he got sick, and he brought in this young man who he had been grooming to be, to take his position. And Michael Eisner took Disney in a darker direction. Suddenly, there's darker movies like The Black Cauldron, Watcher in the Woods, some pretty scary, creepy stuff like Something Wicked This Way Comes. During the Michael Eisner era, Disney wasn't as safe as it had been, and there were some things that were definitely more adult. And he didn't really like warn people that this was coming, and so people were still thinking they could stick their kid and just stick something in front of them, and then what was stuck in front of them was Watcher in the Woods, which is not a movie that you should stick kids in front of. Nightmares. Anyway, but for everything like that, there was stuff like Condor Man and things like that that were kind of wacky, more on the wacky side. But the Disney parks were still doing awesome business, and where things really changed was there was an uprising, and the uprising was led by a very familiar name. The name was Roy Disney, Walt Disney's brother, his little brother, and Roy actually, his problem was that he thought that there was things that were going on that Michael Eisner was doing to modernize the company that Roy felt like were moving away from the original intent of Disney. And because of that, he led a stockholder uprising against Michael Eisner, and kicked him out of chairmanship. And and Roy's pick to take over think there was a few to take over, was a guy who started out in ABC, was Bob Iger. Okay. Now, the problem, I think Roy's heart was in the right place. I think Roy was trying to maintain the family philosophy. Except Roy has a daughter. Her name is Abigail. Abigail hates everything Disney has ever stood for with a passion. She despises it. She's a little rich girl who's never had a bad thing happen to her entire life, never worked a day in her life, and basically went to college and got all those communist ideas in her head. And so when Roy passed away, the the power behind the throne became Abigail Disney. Hey, what's up, not Brian? Good to see you, buddy. Well, Abigail Disney is the canary in the coal mine. If you want to know why was Disney went woke, it begins, and ends with Abigail Disney. Everything that's gone wrong with the company, the direction that it's taken, the fact that it seems deliberately destroying everything that Walt ever believed in, that Walt ever supported, that he ever stood for. It all begins and ends at his niece, Roy's daughter, Abigail. And so if you want to know why Disney's in the state it is today, you can point it at that little rich bitch right there. Because every time you look at, like, why did they make this decision? Why did they hire this person? Why did they get rid of this person? You know, like Lasseter, John Lasseter. Why did John Lasseter, who is a roly-poly, lovable, huggable guy who just happened to hug everybody he came in contact with because he's just full of love. He was an affectionate guy, very demonstrative. And suddenly they Me Too'd him and stuck this shrill little feminist in his place. And suddenly Pixar goes, phew. Well, you can find direct internal emails that lead back to Abigail Disney. She is behind all of this. And it will please her no end to see that company go straight into toy. The DEI stuff that destroyed all their middle management, that sent all of the best Imagineers out the door, the DEI that caused the whole entire upper strata of Disney to turn into Burger King Kids Club of diversity and not a competent mind among them. Abigail. I mean, you can point it all to her. She is the Kathleen Kennedy of Disney. And oh, by the way, she's the reason Kathleen Kennedy will have a job until Kathleen Kennedy doesn't want one anymore. It all begins and ends at this girl who grew up with the privilege that her Uncle Walt's vision gave her and doesn't appreciate any of it. Of course, he grew up in California. And, so enough said. Yeah. But anyway, so what it was it's this entertainment juggernaut. This affectionate thing that we all remember very fondly. And we all have memories of it, and we're all nostalgic for it. And they are raping our nerves right now. They are basically milking nostalgia, milking our affection, milking our memories of when it was good to keep the doors open. And they've taken the greatest IPs in modern history, Star Wars and Marvel, and drove them right into the ground. And now they're like, oh no, Marvel and DC or Marvel and Star Wars isn't selling anymore. What do we need? What can we do? Let's find another IP to bring the boys back because we took boy brands and because of our rabid feminists behind the scenes, we removed anything boy out of them and shoved a whole bunch of feminism into it. Uh, and then, oh, surprise, surprise, boys don't want it anymore. So we need to go get the boys back. So what do? Let's find another boy brand and bring it in because it works so well with Star Trek, Star Wars, and Marvel. So let's take the same people who ruined those IPs and shoved feminism into them so much that they became princess brands instead of boy brands, and where no boy wanted to play with the toys, and no young man wanted to buy the movies or go buy a ticket to see them anymore. And so, what are we going to do? We're going to take another boy centric IP and we're going to put it in the hands of the same people who destroyed the other IPs. Ultimately, in the hands of Abigail Disney. Bob Iger goes, he's going to retire again probably next few years. Kathleen Kennedy says she's going to retire, and I think Feige is probably on his last legs over at Marvel. They go out the door. Guess who's going to be in charge of hiring the new people? The cancer will remain. And there's nobody left to do a Roy Disney style uprising against her. And she still owns like a controlling interest in the stock. So, as long as she's there, blood withstanding, name withstanding, as long as she's there, Disney will never recover. Now, for a long time, they had the parks. They had the iconic rides, and they had the trademarks. Like the Waterways of America. Guess what they're destroying right now? Waterways of America. Yeah, the Tom Sawyer Island's gone, and everything that Disney built to represent Americana is being destroyed to make way for, among other things, cars. Cars. What's up, Lucky? Hey, man. So, I just don't, I don't have any optimism for Disney. And it hurts me to say that. The first movie that I ever watched in the theater was Herbie the Love Bug. That's my very that I ever watched. And I used to watch the Wonderful World of Disney on Sunday nights with my parents, my brothers and sister. And so this is deep in what made me who I am. A lot of infuses my storytelling when I go to write comes from those Disney products that I absorbed when I was a kid. And so when I say that I don't see a future for Disney, it's basically me saying that I think a relative has terminal illness. I just don't see, as long as Abigail Disney draws breath, Disney will continue its current course. Unless somebody tries to force her out, which is what they tried to do last year, and the pixie dusters voted it down. They also voted down the DEI. They tried to eliminate the DEI, and the pixie duster board voted to keep it. You know what DEI has done to Disney? Look at Universal Studios and look at what Disney's producing right now. The people that Disney kicked out the door went across the road. And so what do you got with the Universal Studios? I've done this, I've covered it here on this channel pretty exclusively. But what you have is you have incredible technology. You got beautiful sights, attention to detail that Disney used to have. All that training of those Imagineers that Disney spent years like grooming and teaching the Disney way and raising them up to be the next generation. All of those Imagineers went across the road. And so now, when you look at the Universal Studios, the level of quality in the last 10 years has gone through the roof. And in the same time, Disney, the parks are nasty. There's alcohol being served in the parks now. They're constantly under construction. And yet, when the rides arrive, like Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which they changed Splash Mountain into, and the last I saw, it might be open 25 to 30% of the time. The rest of the time, it's broken down. And they took all of the handcrafted signage out of it and replaced it with things that you can make in Photoshop. DEI has destroyed the Disney parks. It's destroyed the IPs, the product that's coming out. And at the heart of all of it, Abigail Disney. All roads lead to her. She is why Disney's not going to last to the next generation. There are kids that are born today that will never know. There's kids that are born in the last 20 years that will never know the quality, the rubber stamp of quality. If it had Disney on it, even if it was like Shakespearean good, you knew it was going to be entertaining. You at least knew that it was going to have redeeming qualities to it. And you're not going to see any more Dean Jones. You know, you're not going to see any, world's greatest athlete world's smartest teenager, Flubber, the absent-minded professor. You're not going to see any of that stuff. And I think that's what saddens me most of all. Because this relative that I grew up with, my Uncle Walt, this stamp of approval, the stamp of quality, is not going to make it. All because while he was building this world, while he was working hard to create this entity, he didn't mind. He didn't pass that on to the next generation. And the next generation of the Disney family, is destroying everything he ever built. That's the real tragedy. I love Walt Disney and what he built. Having never benefited in any physical way, financially, and I respect him and what he built better than his own family. I mourn Disney. But when she closes the doors on Disney that last time, she was going to high five all her California friends and probably go to a Caribbean island somewhere off of the billions of dollars she's got in her bank account off of Walt's hard work. And she doesn't respect any of it. So anyway, that is Bunny thinking about Disney. They're not good thoughts. They're not encouraging thoughts. It's going to just on sheer momentum and sheer market share and from the sheer power of its IPs, it's going to probably coast for a few years yet. But eventually, it's all going to be over. It's inevitable. It's not going to recover. They threw the map away. They threw the formula that Walt used to build the empire away because they despise everything that he did to build the company. They hate it with every fiber of their being. How the hell can you recover from that? It's kind of like all these people trying to reinvent these restaurants and beer and all this and John Deere and Harley Davidson and all these people are trying to reinvent these things for the modern age, and they utterly and completely hate the things that made those things great. There's no way you can maintain anything if you hate it. Because some part of you is always going to want it to die. And so every decision you make is going to be suspect. And it's going to be secretly deep down in your subconscious somewhere is going to be to the detriment, not to the benefit. Until somebody gets back in charge of Disney who can tell Abigail where to go, tell her to go drink tea with her commie friends and stay the hell out of Disney Disney business. And that's not going to happen. Roy did a good job. He overthrew the structure of Disney and made himself the sole voice that they would listen to. And then he had the temerity of dying and passing it on to his bitch daughter. RIP to a great company. Company that partially raised me. So I don't say it with any kind of glee. I don't say it with any kind of encouragement or happiness whatsoever. Makes me sick to my stomach. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Any comments to be made? Anything I need to highlight? Anybody want to say anything before we go? Speak now or forever hold your peace. That is a no. So, okay. Thank you all for coming, and we will talk to you next time. Follow the White Rabbit. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.